Slurpy dup, my G's. Yes, guys, how are you guys doing? I was just thinking about talking about narratives today, narratives in music production, because I had some people reach out to me recently to send some demos for the label, and the tracks were pretty good, but I just felt like they lacked a bit of a narrative. And I was just wondering, like, is that something you guys think about much when you're producing? Like, leave a comment down below. Like, how important is it to you to have a narrative in a song, and how do you get that narrative into the song? Because what if you're writing something that's very strictly for dance floor, or something very minimal, or something that's just a roller? Like, does that have a narrative in it? My answer would be yes, even if it's very dance floor oriented or minimal. My answer would be that it still has a narrative, because the narrative can be expressed through many things, even very micro things like the sound design, for example. I particularly like tracks that use sound design to convey the narrative, because I'm not talking about a narrative in the sense that, oh, you need to make the whole track feel like a book, like you're trying to recreate George Orwell's 1984 in music form, although that would be awesome. um, that's not exactly what I mean by narrative. It's more that there is a sort of concept of a story within the song somehow. And it could be something super, super simple, like you've got one fat bass line, but the bass line goes from being, normal and great and wonderful to changing so much at some point. Like, it sort of automates to become perhaps to just capitulate into just like little bit crushed noise file. But it goes from this big thing and it changes and disrupts itself and becomes something else. And that's just for like one sound being automated that, gives an interesting sense of narrative just through the sound design. But of course, if you've got tracks with like a vocal in, like a full full vocal track with intro, chorus, verse, all that kind of stuff, and I mean, that's obviously a much easier way to create a narrative, if you're doing that. But what I'm saying is that even if you're not doing that, there's still great ways you can create a narrative. So a way for me that always seems to naturally create like a nice narrative in music is just thinking about having your main elements, or any sort of elements in your track actually evolve and change over time. So just basic example, but you've got a drum break that you've made, like a drum group that you've got for your drop, but in the intro maybe you'll use it as well, but in a different way. So you'll have it really like quiet and low pass filtered, maybe a little filter sweep coming up on it, for example. And then later on towards the outro of the track, maybe you'll use the break, but then you sort of really reverb it out or glitch it out with some crazy effects plugin or something. But that's just drums. But in terms of any elements in your track, how they can potentially sort of evolve over time and change over time can then like create naturally a sense of narrative in the song as well. And so I often always personally think about it like sort of characters in a play or characters in a film. I like good films that they have characters that go through changes, like the hero, the boy who becomes like a hero or something like that. It's like very timid and afraid and scared at the beginning, and then by the end he becomes a mighty warrior, because he's gone through different twists and turns throughout the story. And the same way you can approach even with sound design, having one sound that goes through different twists and turns and changes. Maybe you've got a synth that opens up with a new chord or a new harmonic later on in the song. That's another way musically you could open things up or close things to create a sense of narrative. And so it's the elements, the way that they change, and when you start to think about doing that more often, then you craft more of a natural narrative between everything, and everything feels like it has sort of cohesion and flows, like it all kind of works, or ends up working well together. Yeah, just like creates a natural sense of cohesion and a feeling of narrative throughout the whole song. And things have like a beginning and a resolution, like at the beginning of the song, you're starting from nothing when you're at the 0 mark, right? You're starting at nothing. So how do you go from nothing to something? How do you start the creation process? Like, how gently can you start it? And how do you resolve it? How do you finish the track? How nicely does it go back to nothing as well, And same for each element. How does each element come in? How does it stay? How does it change? And how does it finish? So when I'm talking about narrative, as you see, I'm not just only talking about having an old school movie vocal telling a little bit of a story about a ghost or a werewolf, and then you feel a bit scared and then the drop comes. I'm not saying that's the only way to create a narrative. I'm saying that the narrative can be formed in the little details, in the sound design as well. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. Do you also think about it as deeply as I do when it comes to narrative and how that can be achieved in even the most subtle ways? I would love to know your thoughts. Leave a comment down below. Thank you very much for watching, my Gs. Make sure you like the video as well. Subscribe if you're new. Glad to have you here. And thank you very much. May I remind you as well, in case you want any production lessons, you can book me via the links down below. I've also got mastering services available. Send me an email. And preset packs are available for Serum, Phase Plant, Vital and Current on my website. And I also have a great Patreon community. If my content helps you out and you like to support me, then head over to Patreon, join our Discord and participate in all the other stuff we've got going on there. All right, that's it from me today. More from me very, very soon. Much love.